Bajaj has created over 50 lakh motorcycling enthusiasts in the country over the last 10 years with their Pulsar range. With every new generation of the Pulsar, with every new motorcycle in the range, they have only fanned the fires in the hearts of the enthusiasts for more performance. And that's actually part of the reason why I'm out here in this slightly wild and unpredictable weather, because I'm here to sample their latest, fastest, maddest and baddest Pulsar yet, the Pulsar 200 NS. It is most definitely the trendiest Pulsar yet. The headlamp merges styling from big naked bikes with traditional Pulsar cues like the twin pilot lights. The Pulsar typical side panel design has been carried forward too. Crafted in plastic, the tank has really aggressive lines, and there's enough space to tuck your knees in while riding hard. The exhaust is tucked away under the engine. The design of the split-spoke alloy wheels is absolutely mind-blowing. The tail section is the Pulsar's worst angle. The typical split tail lamps are fine, but somehow the rear section just seems incomplete and awkward. And the mudguard is a bit extreme. The NS feels fairly well built too. The 3-part instrument cluster looks sporty and is easy to read. It also offers a shift light and a side stand warning light. Now Pulsar has to look mean, and the 200 NS does a pretty good job of that. But looks aside, a Pulsar also has to perform. It has to be an all-rounder. It has to perform well in the city, out on the highway, around corners. Can the 200 NS really deliver on all those counts into, one nice package? Let's take things one at a time and see whether it can excite us. Let's focus on the performance and dynamics. As it turns out, the 200 NS is quick and exciting. Its 199.5cc motor has an ultra short stroke design. It uses a 4-valve head, which helps it gulp in huge quantities of air. And the 3 spark plugs burn all the charge just as quickly. It really has a healthy appetite for revs. It'll go from 0 to 100 in 11.3 seconds. That puts it a second faster than the last big daddy of the Pulsar family, the 220F. And this Pulsar has no gear shift issues either. The other big plus is the handling. There's a crispness and confidence in the way the NS turns and changes direction that no big displacement Pulsar in the past has ever had. It's all down to the steel perimeter frame, the 37mm front forks, the monoshock suspension, and the big box section swing arm. The dynamics combined with the meaty motor make the 200 NS a very potent motorcycle. So it's a good thing that the bite from the 280mm disc at the front and the 230mm disc at the rear is plain solid. The only problem here are the standard TVS tires. The 100x80 R17 front and the 130x70 R17 rear let you lean over easily, but once you start pushing the envelope, they fail to inspire confidence. The Pulsar's slightly heavy feel at the handlebar and the highish seating position also takes some getting used to. This motorcycle is the quickest, the best handling, and the most exciting Pulsar to date. So the question that still remains is it still practical? Now, lower in the rev range, the NS's carbureted motor doesn't have the same animal-like grunt of the earlier Pulsars, but response is good even at low RPMs. Power delivery is linear, which means slow spells in the city aren't a pain. Once you get into the mid-range, the response is crisp, and it lets you ride in a relaxed, commuterish fashion quite easily. The only problem at low speeds isn't from the engine, it's at the handlebar. The Pulsar feels quite heavy to maneuver through slow-moving traffic. On the highway, the Pulsar's motor is more than game to cover really long distances with a fairly tranquil air. This is especially great considering it is a sporty motorcycle. The suspension soaks up bumps nicely, and the well-padded seat gives a surprising amount of comfort even over our broken roads. The upright riding position is easy on your wrists too. When it comes to fuel efficiency, the Pulsar's 35.9 kilometers per liter in the city and 41.1 kilometers per liter out on the highway are even better than the Pulsar 220F. Now the 200 NS has the performance and dynamic edge that will take Pulsar Mania to an all-new high. At the same time, it holds on to Pulsar traditions and tries to be an all-rounder. It manages to acquit itself quite well in the city and over our broken roads, especially quite well considering it's such a sporty motorcycle. Its 85,000 rupee price tag isn't small, but it is something that makes the 200 NS seem like incredible value. You could easily put your money on this motorcycle without thinking too hard, except there is one problem. That. Now people think they're essentially the same machines wearing different clothes. It's easy to get confused really because they do share a lot. The power plants have a lot in common. Both are liquid cooled, they share the identical bore and stroke, both use 4-valve heads, they have the same 6-speed gearboxes and underslung exhausts. But there are differences. The Duke uses a single spark plug, the Pulsar uses 3. The Duke uses fuel injection, the Pulsar uses a carb. The difference is apparent in the numbers. The Duke makes 25 bhp, the Pulsar develops 23.2 bhp. The Duke is also lighter by 9 kilos. And that gives it a power to weight ratio of 183.8 bhp per ton, while the Pulsar has 160 bhp per ton. Put the two against the clock and the Duke is faster by just 0.4 of a second to the 60 km/h mark. But by the time you hit 100, the difference is almost 2 seconds. There's absolutely no reason for the Pulsar to feel embarrassed about having been edged out by the Duke. The Duke has a hardware advantage, fuel injection, lighter weight, shorter gearing, just makes it feel so urgent and so much fun. But actually, the thrill of riding the Duke is also exaggerated by another factor, its dynamics. Once again, the hardware comparison shows that they share nearly identical wheelbases and geometry. But the Duke uses 43mm upside down forks from WP. The Pulsar uses regular telescopic forks. The Duke uses a trellis frame. The Pulsar uses a pressed steel frame. The Duke's rear swing arm is a cast alloy unit. The Pulsar uses a plain rectangular box section unit. The Duke uses wider, sticky MRF rubber. The Pulsar's rubber is narrower and not quite as sticky. The Duke uses steel braided hoses for the front disc. The Pulsar doesn't. The seating position of the Duke is quite like a super motorbike. The handlebar is wide, there's a slight forward lean, even the foot position is a bit sporty. It just seems to say, ride faster. Everything gives you superb feedback and confidence. And you'll find yourself pushing harder, going faster and loving every bit of it. Being right over, the Duke also fidgets. But in these wet conditions, the Pulsar was at a greater disadvantage. The Pulsar's tires don't have the same ferocity. So even though the Pulsar can carve up corners beautifully, the Duke just feels lighter to steer and way more confident. So when it comes to dynamics and performance, the Duke has an advantage over the Pulsar, but when it comes to day-to-day, everyday kind of riding, it's the Pulsar that has the edge. When it comes to comfort, the Duke is a bit lacking. The suspension is stiff and the seat is thin. The Pulsar suspension is softer and its seat is more cushy. Also, the Duke just begs to be ridden hard, all the time. So highway duties or low-speed city duties, is the Pulsar that feels calmer and more relaxing to be on. When it comes to fuel efficiency, in the city they are quite close. But the Duke's 38 km per liter is lower than the Pulsar's by 3 km per liter. Of the two, it's the Pulsar 200 NS that is the more mature package here. It opts to deliver better rideability and better ride comfort for day-to-day duties while still delivering thrilling levels of performance and dynamics. The fact that this is all wrapped up into an 85,000 rupee ex-showroom Delhi price tag just makes this more than enough motorcycle for most of the riders out there. But there are some riders out there, including me, who are looking for a thrill a minute. And for us, the Duke's stiff ride quality, its high-strung nature only highlight its uncompromised attitude. And the fact that it costs 30,000 rupees more, well, won't seem like all that much. In fact, actually, it'll still seem like a pretty sweet deal.